My first diagnosis was back in 2002. We'd only arrived in the country 2001, and we'd come over. I had two teenage boys and a young daughter from South Africa, and we settled in Bangor, and we'd just got organised, the children at school and things like that. He discussed the idea of reconstruction, and again I said to him no, I wasn't. I didn't want reconstruction, and my main reason was I found something in my body that shouldn't be there, and I don't want to replace it with another foreign body. And I also had this fear that if you put something back into my body again, it could mask something growing behind it. So maybe the cancer could spread and they wouldn't be able to see it because of this implant. They'd said they could bring it from the back, and they bring it round. The very idea of it actually was some surgeon's hands taking the fat from my sides and my back or my stomach and moving it up inside my body to form another breast. And I thought, I don't think I could sleep at night afterwards with those sort of images going through my brain. So I decided no, I couldn't do it. So I ended up going in and having the one breast removed. I don't think it ever really crossed my mind that I was losing my breast. I didn't ever feel the need to go to my husband and say, do you mind, I'm not going to have reconstruction, or I'm going to be losing a breast, is this going to be a problem? I think the only thing that was ever going through my brain and my husband's was, this could kill me if we don't get rid of it. And I've got a young 3-year-old daughter and 2 teenage boys, and it was, we've just got to get rid of this. It's got to go. And he was very, very supportive with me in not wanting to have an implant put in as well. And initially, I worked with a prosthesis, and I had a prosthesis. I was in a lot of pain. And I had tubes where they had the drains. There were 2 drains coming out of my body where they were draining the fluid into it. And they brought along this horrible lady who was probably very, very nice, but she forced me to do things with my arm that I really didn't want to do. So I had to lift, you had to do these exercises, and it was hours after coming out of surgery when you were still very confused by the whole operation and what you'd gone through, and I don't think I ever really had the time to come to terms with it as such. In fact, I remember that day my daughter coming up, and although she was only 3, the whole thing had been discussed from the beginning with the 3 children. We told them what was happening and what I had decided to do. They did say, is Mommy going to die? And of course we just said, no, I'm not going to die, this is why I've got to go in and have this operation. They take the tumour out and then I'll be fine. And when Emily came up to the hospital to see me, first thing she wanted to do was see the scar. Have you got a scar? Can I see your scar? And I remember her waiting patiently for the day when they would take the bandage off the top for her to have a look. She wanted to see it. So in the family, we felt that the children dealt with it really, really well. I had very heavy breasts, not extremely large, but they were quite heavy breasts that I had. And suddenly I had this piece of cotton wool on one side and a breast on the other, and that was hard. It was very difficult because I think you didn't feel balanced yourself. You felt the weight of the one breast, and in the other, the pocket of the other bra was this very lightweight. It's nearly like a cotton wool, nylon-y cotton wool that fills it, so there's no weight to it at all. You're also very aware if anybody touches you that they're getting a different sensation. I get a different sensation when they touch different sides of my body, and I felt they were aware that there was something different. And eventually then I came through to get fitted for a prosthesis. And I also purchased my own swimming prosthesis because I did do a bit of swimming at the time in the pool. And the swimming prosthesis was also quite good. Again, you were very aware of the weight difference. It never felt the same as your own breast. I remember one time being in Tesco's and leaning into one of the deep fridges to get something out that was at the time in the centre aisle, and leaned down and having this terrifying thought that this was going to fall out of my breast and end up amongst the frozen peas. And I was standing here fishing this out from the frozen peas. How embarrassing. But I wore it for, I think, about maybe 18 months, maybe even 2 years. But I was never comfortable with it, and I couldn't run because it felt extremely heavy and would move in the bra if I was running. What did happen was that I decided I wasn't going to wear the prosthesis, and I thought, I'm wearing this so that other people don't notice that I've only got one breast. And I thought, this is silly. I've got to be the person that's comfortable, and they're going to have to deal with it. And I thought, well, how can I do it without it looking like I'm trying to make a statement, or I'm trying to say to people, look, I've lost a breast. You know, you've got to try and find that balance, that people don't think you're making your statement. What I found out was I could go to British Home Stores, and in fact Marks and Spencer's as well, both did at the time, sports bras. And it was just a very flat but strong elasticated bra that had no cups in it. And it meant I could put that on, and it supported my one breast, but it sat quite flush against the other side. Then, of course, if I put on a t-shirt, I looked a little bit ridiculous. So I overcame that by wearing layers. I would wear a couple of different layers. So you found different ways of dressing so that you didn't stand out. Nobody was aware of how you were underneath all your clothes. And that's how I ended up feeling comfortable. And I got to the stage that I wasn't aware that I only had one breast. It became totally normal to be like that. I think initially, especially when my husband would touch me and there was no breast there, I think you had to get a certain amount of comfort from your husband that no, he wasn't not repulsed by it, but he wasn't turned off by it, or that it wasn't a problem. He didn't see it as a problem. And I am very lucky. I do have a lovely husband, very supportive. And, you know, the first thing he would have said is, you know, you are not your breasts. That's not who you are. So, but yes, you did. And you would look in the mirror. And especially when I only had the one breast, it was very strange initially to look in the mirror. Or when you're showering and you're in the shower and putting soap on or whatever. As they did the needle aspiration, I could tell on her face that she knew straight away that there was something in it. So she just said, can you hang about for about an hour and I'll get you the results straight away? And came back and said, no, malignant. So that was me back on the roller coaster again. The procedures had changed in that 10-year period. I feel symmetrical again. I feel it's easier to get dressed. I don't have to. I do still tend to wear things that are layered, more out of habit, I suppose. The one thing I have had to do is lose a bit of weight, because being totally flat-chested, then I found that the spare tire that I was carrying was more noticeable to me. I was more aware of it, and so it has given me a bit of encouragement to lose a bit of weight as well. But I've never had prosthesis again. I just t-shirt and a blouse, or I wouldn't go out. I don't think I would go out in public wearing a t-shirt totally flat-chested. So I would always have something on top, or a scarf around my neck, or something hanging loose. And looking in the mirror the first time was very strange, to see a totally flat chest and the two scars across my body. And I think also the first time in bed with my husband was I did feel very odd. And it is a very strange feeling to get used to. And you know you're a woman, and yet you look down and you don't see the one thing that magazines and newspapers and posters show what a woman is. I think the way I work it out is that I'm alive, that I'm here for my children. I don't think I've ever actually said to him, how do you feel about the fact that I don't have breasts? Don't think I've really ever come out and asked him. He's always voiced his support, and I think I've never wanted to delve too deeply into the question, maybe myself. I was always under the impression that 90% of the women had reconstruction. I think, even speaking to the doctor and the breast care nurse, I always felt that they were putting forward that idea of having the reconstruction. I don't think anybody ever puts the idea of not having reconstruction and not wearing a prosthesis. That was never ever given to me as a choice, and I always felt that I was initially, I think that's why I found it so hard, and it took me nearly 2 years to throw away the prosthesis. I felt it was always out there. Well, you're a woman, you've got to have a breast somehow, whether we reconstruct it or whether you wear a prosthesis. I feel that's what was being put to me all the time.